Thank you, Iska.
You, in your discussion, didn't notice, but Dustin has drifted over your way.
At this point, her face is back to
Yep.
perfectly placid.
My
Is there
apologies.
something?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude or eavesdrop. It's an old talent I have, and sometimes I even can't quite distinguish if I'm hearing a conversation or watching it and understanding what has been said. He looks guilty. He seems to gather himself, not quite knowing where to start or even how to explain himself, so, with a sigh, he just begins. My wife, you see, was from a long line of farmers. Her family, a part of a human community that worked the lands of a minor lord south of Balathira for generations. Their history stretched back from the times before the grounding even, working that same land, but never truly owning their harvest or homes or tools, just the small portion of the income it generated, bestowed upon them by their lord. It was my wife, Sarah, whose grandfather had the wisdom to look back over his life and think forward to the future. 45 years ago, he went to the Lord who he knew owned vast tracts of wilderness to the north and the west, and asked what would it cost for the community to buy their own land and to work it. The Lord was a kind and honest man and quoted a fair price. The story goes that Sarah's father didn't even blanch when he said the number, knowing it was a price that would take lifetimes for them to accrue. But he went forward and discussed the details with the Lord, and with shrewd negotiation on both sides they settled upon a parcel of land. It was far from the roads, but surveys from before the grounding showed it to have a clear stream, healthy lumber and fertile metals that could be cultivated. A contract was drafted up for the land, and it was left with an open-end date. Sarah's grandfather presented this contract to the community, and all agreed that from then forward, all would put in all they could into paying it off, so that one day their children, or perhaps their children's children, or beyond, could fulfill it and then live on land that they could call their own. And so their dream was born. Now, I first noticed Sarah at the markets. She seemed to always be there, with a warm smile, kind ear, and goods to barter or sell. Sarah would always say she wasn't a beautiful woman, but to anyone who looked with more than their eyes, they could see the beauty that lied within her. I assumed she must be local to the marketplace, located in the shadow of the Lord's estate. But when I finally got the courage to ask, she said no, she was from one of the furthest farms, and that she woke before dawn and returned well past dusk to travel here each day to sell her goods. She then told me of her community's dream, and it became my dream as well. I was a hunter back then, so I brought Sarah game as often as I could in small wood crafts that could be sold, and it was impossible for me not to fall in love with her. And 17 years ago, we were married. And 3 years after that, our daughter was born, Lilly, a child of the air. When she was born, it had been just a year since the events of the culling had swept through our region, so superstitions about the children were still strong. But the horror of the culling was still fresh enough in people's minds to shield us from any outward hostility. We knew early on that Lilly would be simple of mind, but that didn't matter to us. No, neither of us had ever known a more loving child than our Lily. When she smiled at you with her alabaster skin and silver cloud of hair, it was like seeing the full moon through the mist and having it smile down upon you. It wasn't until later that we realized she was gifted as well. I like to believe that her joy and happiness was so pure it lifted not only her heart, but her body as well up to the heavens. You see, when she would run giggling through the fields, her toes would barely touch the ground, and one would almost believe that she could fly. Many were sure that one day she would leave the ground and in that moment bring the netherwings down on us, but she never left contact with the earth, and the rumors of the sounds of leathery wings on the wind were just that, rumors. Throughout her life, even in our small community though, wary eyes followed Lily, and friends were hard to find. So on her 5th birthday, Sarah made her a doll. Just a simple one from corn husks. And whenever Lily was sad or nervous, or sensed others were, she would bring out her baby and say, "Kiss the baby. Okay, all better now." She never once misplaced that doll or left it behind. It was always in a pocket or within reach. You see, it was her baby, and she knew she was the one to take care of it. My family, we met Talarian just before harvest 6 years ago. He appeared out of the woods by our farm, silent as a stag and almost as nervous. Lily was picking wildflowers close by, singing one of her meandering tunes. Seeing Sarah's and my concern for this stranger emerging from the forest, he just raised both hands and nodded to us assuringly that he meant her no harm. Before I could even take a step, this new person from the woods caught Lily's attention, and she flashed him a big wet smile and at full run went over to bear hug him, her sturdy 8-year-old form almost knocking him over in her exuberance. As I approached, I wasn't sure if Talarian was going to stay or disappear back into the forest. I think he might have run if it hadn't been for Lily firmly attached around his waist. Talarian didn't speak much then. He said only, "I saw your hunt didn't go well, and the night will be cold," and presented me with 3 plump pheasants that were hanging from his pack. As if on cue, Lily chimes in, "Yay, guest for dinner! Mommy and Daddy, my new friend is staying for dinner!" And then latched onto Talarian's hand and began dragging him to our small cabin. Talarian tried to protest and looked almost in a panic, but our Lily's overflowing joy in her new friend and a presentation to him of her baby for a kiss, which he dutifully did, quelled his unease and Sarah's and mine as well. So he finally gave in and was led to dinner. Conversation was strained, but between Sarah and Lily, Talarian grew comfortable, and we shared our lives and dreams openly with this new stranger who would become my closest friend. At this point, you kind of see Dustin close off, and you can imagine as he's remembering the conflict from just a few days before and what the glance sort of at the ring, knowing that Talarian is within the seed with Kel. His face just drops, and he just sort of walks back away, and you can tell he's unable to speak any further because of the emotion that is sort of caught in his throat.